Hi, this is David Williams. I'm here with Danica Trebel. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you.
I know we had some connectivity issues earlier, so people don't realize what we've gone through to get this reconnection, but I'm glad that we were able to get going here. What I'm going to do is just allow you to give us, give us a brief introduction in the beginning, and then at the end, you can get a lot deeper with some more information. So go ahead and tell
Okay.
us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Awesome, thank you. First, again, let me say thank you so much for having me here and putting this together. It's critical every day of every year. So I truly appreciate you spreading hope and encouragement like wildfire. Like you mentioned, my name is Danica Trebel, and I am a Ziegler certified Choose to Win coach. My passion is hope and encouragement, helping people remember who they were before the world told them who they weren't. I recently started a daily dose with Danica on Facebook Live, so we can just drop hope and encouragement, share whatever we're going through, just to have people have space to be heard. And so the timing of this is perfect. And again, I appreciate you having me here.
I'm glad that you're able to be with us. I want you to repeat something you just said because I'm going to be taking some notes and I missed a part. Remember, what were you saying? Remember who you are repeat that again. I'm sure that's something that you say quite often.
It is, yes. I love helping people remember who they were before the world told them who they weren't. And the world can be anyone. It could be our inner voice, which is stemming from just negative self-talk or input from childhood or peers, or even just one thing somebody said a whole lifetime ago that could become our core belief. And so then we base our whole lives on that one thing. And so now it's time to get back to who we were before that voice told us who we weren't.
That's good stuff. I wanted to have you repeat that. And obviously, being part of a Ziegler certified coach, you're going to have some good things to share with us today. And so, what I want to do is just turn it over to you, talking about when things are going well and when things are not going well, because I started listening to Zig Ziglar back in the 80s on cassette. So I know that, positive, one of the things that he said, many years ago was positive thinking will help you do things better than negative thinking will, right? So that's kind of what
Exactly.
we want to talk about today. Talk about hope, talk about being positive, even in a negative world or a negative circumstance. And because you've got that connection to Ziegler, and he's one of my favorite motivational speakers.
Yeah.
And so I want to just turn it over to you and let you share some encouragement and messages of hope with the audience today.
Oh, thank you so much. And we have a perfect example of how when things don't go the way we plan them, like this morning when we were trying to connect at 10 o'clock and I ended up having to get in the car, run over to somewhere that has connectivity that I knew was good. So we just learn to adapt in situations. And I have props here. This is one of my favorite things. So this is a great visual of how we can be going through our day and our lives for years, months, weeks, whatever, and everything's all seemingly like it's in the right place, right? And then all of a sudden, something happens. We get promoted and we're no longer focused on family. We get fired or laid off, and everything just falls out of our environment that we thought was stable and consistent. And now we literally have to pick up the pieces. Some fell on the floor, some are on my lap, some could have flown behind me. But now we have to figure out how we're going to put our lives back together. And sometimes we pick up a piece that looks like it could go here, like I have this plus sign here. So I could maybe think it fits in the star because that's what I'm used to doing. I'm used to struggling to make it through a day. So I think this should go here. So I made it work before somehow, but now that life isn't like it used to be, I no longer can fit that in that hole. So now I have to remember who I was before the world told me who I wasn't, and look to find where my pieces actually fit so that we can have hope and encouragement And sometimes we'll fall back into those habits of trying to fit pieces where they don't belong. But eventually, when we just keep trying and we have people around us to encourage us, to remember, help us remember who we were, and then sometimes they have to point us to the right piece, because like this one's even a better example. This guy looks like it could go here, and you're trying to tell him, but look, I can make it happen, but this worked before. We're working in situations that aren't the same anymore, and so we no longer feel powerless in the situation we had been, and that's why we were doing that. And even now I'm having a hard time finding where that space is, but once you do, everything falls into place. Your relationships are better, your health is better, your joy is here. Oh, there's that one. And then life falls back into place, only better than it was before. And so this is my favorite example of hope and encouragement, because now when you put the pieces in the right place, when you're living your purpose and your passion with a different positive mindset, you can move forward again. Sometimes we have a little snag and a couple of pieces will fall out, but we know where they go because we've been practicing putting them in the right place. Fun.
I remember that toy from my childhood. That's a pretty old one, but I've never seen it used like you just did. And that's a great example of how people will try to force something. What I'm getting from that is you're trying to force things where it doesn't belong. And when you find where it fits, then you're able to get your life back on track. You're able to get more organized, and get back going on the right thing. And I like the way that you open it up again, because there will be things that come our way in life, and it's going to kind of fall apart again. And then you have to pick up the pieces. There's one thing that I jotted down that I wanted to come back to. And one of the things you said is about people encouraging us. Obviously, staying connected with people that are positive and encourage us versus spending as many hours of the day as we can watching the media and the news. So let's talk about surrounding yourself with positive people, or even utilizing a coach. So there's multiple ways that people can do, they can hire a coach, they can surround themselves with positive people, they can choose to be positive versus being negative. So talk to me a little bit about that whole process.
One of my most aha moments, or quotes that gave me an aha moment, was, you're the sum total of the 5 people closest to you. And I had been thinking that I could do this with the people that were around me. And I've been under the tutelage, people laugh when I use that word, training and mentorship of the Ziegler mindset and for a while. And I was trying to apply it in my current situations, doing the same things over and over, but I didn't have that up close and like-minded, intimate community. I was still talking to the same people, asking them for advice, and they were telling me the same things from their experiences. Oh, you can never have this, you can't do this, life is just gonna keep doing this to you, I don't even know why you're trying. So I realized that if I wanted to apply what I was learning, then I would have to try to do it. And then the more I tried to do it, the more the things that didn't fit my life or my dreams or my passions or my visions started dying. So I had to apply to try to make the things die that don't work for me, so that then when I'm around the people who have gone ahead of me to where I want to go, I'll have the example and not have to try to blaze the trail by myself, because I have someone who's already gone ahead to help reach back to me when I need that hope and encouragement and wisdom. And because sometimes we don't know, we think we can do everything by ourselves and we don't need help, and then we can help ourselves. But if we don't know what help we need, how are we going to get the help? So that's why it's so important to have people around us who support us, see things in us that we can't necessarily see ourselves, build us up, and then teach us how to go where they've been. But then it's up to us to do it.
Yeah, yeah, it's up to us to do it. We have to take action, right? You can't change
Yeah.
without taking action. One of my favorite Zig Ziglar quotes of all time, probably my single most favorite, maybe my most favorite quote ever, is you can have everything in life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want. So those
Right.
people that you were talking about that, well, you're never going to do this and you're not going to accomplish this. And they obviously don't adopt that mentality because helping other people is one of the things that I think as humans we're called to do. I think that's something that we're supposed to be doing, is helping other people in life. And if you help enough other people, then things are going to come your way. Obviously, you said some really good stuff in there, and I'm going to just take a quick peek at some of my notes. Keep trying, apply what you learn, get in a like-minded community. So obviously social media can be both positive and negative. And if you're in a situation where somebody is being overly negative all the time, then you need to look at options there. There are ways to mute conversations, mute people, still stay connected, but say, I don't want to keep seeing this type of stuff because it's not benefiting my life. And so it sounds like you had an opportunity to say, I've got to change and get with like-minded people, follow those who have the wisdom, who've gone on before me. Those are some of the things that I heard you saying. So what I'd like to do now, before we close out the segment and at the very end and give you an opportunity to tell a little bit more about who you are and how to reach you, I'd like for you to share any closing thoughts that you have, some things that as we come to a close with what you've already said, some closing wisdom thoughts, right? Some of like maybe what's your journey and some big takeaways you've got, or how you would point people to a certain place or direction. So go ahead and give me some closing thoughts, and then we will take it from there and wrap the session up.
Perfect. Well, I want to piggyback on what you had said about, the toxic negative people and Facebook and whatever. Zig Ziglar also says, don't let toxic and negative people rent space in your head. Raise the rent and kick them out. And so what does it even mean to raise the rent? Well, we get to choose everything we have going on in our lives. We really can choose one or the other. We can choose to continue to look at things on Facebook and be drawn into that mindset. And Tom Ziglar says, what you feed your mind becomes your appetite. Your input becomes your appetite. So if we feed ourselves negative things, or we consistently are surrounded by that, even self-talk is one of the worst conversations we can possibly have sometimes. And if we continue to feed that, then our appetite for that will continue to grow, but the same is for positive. And Dr. Caroline Leaf is one of my favorite people also. She's a cognitive neuroscientist who scientifically proves that the more negativity and toxic thoughts we have, the more brain damage we create in our own selves. So if we put it that way, that was another aha moment. It's like, why would I want to create my own brain damage? So then just flipping the script a little bit and taking things and saying, oh man, I can't get this to fit here. Oh, well, that's because I've outgrown it. And it might have used to fit there, but with some struggle, and I might have cheated and maybe put it in this way. But what if I stop the struggle and just do this and have people who will help us? And I want to also follow up on my story of how I got into Ziglar. I was waiting for the perfect time when the money lined up and when this was all right and when this was perfect. And I talked with someone there about becoming a legacy coach probably 3 years prior. And they were like, yes, we want you in. Tom Ziegler himself said it would be wonderful to have me as one of his representatives, basically, which was humbling beyond belief. And so I spent the first probably weeks so excited, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to change this and I'm going to do this. And then the more I got back into my comfort zone of my habits and daily routine, the less vivid that dream became, because then I started seeing, oh man, I'm working these number of hours, this money's never going to come, I'll never be able to save up enough to be able to go there. And so the dream lost its luster. And while it was always in the back of my head, my situation dictated the fact that it was not going to happen. Because, you know, I was getting close and then this would happen. And so fast forward 3 years, I had another conversation with someone there, and she helped me realize that I had a choice to make. She goes, how many times are we going to have this conversation about when things are right? The time will never be right. And that's another thing Zig says, you know, the time will never be right, be perfect. The time will never be perfect, but the time will always be right. I think I just made that up. So the time will always be right to make another choice. And so I had to choose, am I going to keep doing the cycle of insanity, or was I actually going to put the action, get a little uncomfortable? I remember I'm not a big believer in debt, and she was encouraging me to use all these resources to invest in myself. And I was panicked. I literally was like, I can't, how am I going to pay this off? And this, and it was like, but the thought of staying the same was so much more painful than what I was investing in my future, myself, my beliefs, my passion, to be able to align and talk with people from the Ziegler community. And it led me to this conversation with you, because had I never done that, I never would have been able to find my voice and my confidence to speak up about the things that I love. I would have been silently sitting there thinking, man, I wish I could do this. And even if I'm afraid to do it, I still do it afraid, because the time will never be perfect, but it will always be right.
Great. That was a great way to wrap this up. You said a lot of really good stuff in there. And the thing, a big takeaway, just a very short summary, is time. The time will never be right, right? It's never a perfect moment for the most part. Like for some people that may be newly married and going to start a family, I could see a young couple pretty much saying, well, when everything lines up, and we're going to start our family when everything is in order, or, and there's all kinds of situations in life where we say, once the time is right, or once this happens, and I can identify my own self with a lot of what you were saying in there, looking at back on my life experiences. And I'm thankful for those Zig Ziglar cassettes back in the 80s. But I still had my struggles, and still over the years, had decisions. And sometimes a bad decision can end up obviously leading you into something that makes you appreciate the next situation better. But we want to try to make as many good decisions as possible. But I appreciate you sharing what you've shared with us today. What I want to do now, like I've said with some of the other guests that I've had, is give you permission to say whatever you'd like to say about who you are, how to reach you, that type of stuff. Anything. You can do a little bit of a sales pitch, because I'm giving you that permission here at the end. So don't feel like, oh, thanks for having me. Have a nice day. Go ahead. Whatever you want to say. I'm letting the audience know you've got my permission to close us out with who you are. So with that said, go for it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I usually talk about my struggle with bulimia. And when I say struggle, that's an understatement. And so it was decades of that being my identity. And I know that when people trust us, they will work with us, or they'll be able to open up to us. And so I want people to understand that where I am now, again, was never even something I thought would be tangible. I dreamt of it, but I never had the support. I never had anything because to be very graphic, my head was in a toilet for decades. And so I never thought I would be able to get past that because it was all I knew. It was my full-time overtime job that I never took a vacation from. And the only reason I'm sitting here today with my own teeth and an esophagus is because of the grace of God, because I was laying on the floor one night, desperate to die. And I was like, God, if you don't take me tonight and you wake me up tomorrow, then you better use me. So I say that to share that there's probably nothing anyone could tell me that would surprise me. Because if I haven't done it, I've thought about it, or I've coached people who have been through it. And the roots of all of these things are the same. We are designed to be acknowledged and accepted for who we are, not what we do. And we have a voice that is so powerful that when we don't know how to use it, we behave, because all behavior equals unmet need. And so my behaviors became that. But once I was willing to take the steps to believe in something other than what I had known, I learned so much. And so that's my pitch. That's my bit. If anyone has anything that they feel like they can't tell anyone because of shame or guilt or whatever, I promise you I've been there to a degree that most people, I hope, never have to understand. And so I can help you remember who you were before the world told you who you weren't, because I believe in you. I know that there's greatness in everyone, and we're all here for such a time as this. And what a perfect time to be able to reconnect with our true identity. And so if anyone wants to reach out to me, my email is unlearningyou, and it's unlearning with the letter u.com. I'm working on a website, and Facebook is Danica Trebel, DANICA TREBEL, and social media, LinkedIn, Instagram. But those are the best ways to get in touch with me.
Well, thank you so much, Danica, for joining me today. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing how far this reaches and how many people we can encourage.